All right, let's do it.
So, yeah, first and foremost, congrats to every hacker that launched an accelerated learning project. Today we have, okay.
Is that live stream? Can people watch it?
It's not live stream, but we plan on publishing it after the fact.
Oh, no.
So, yeah,
Post it.
yeah, it's not live. Yeah, congrats to everyone who sweated through the night, up at 3 a.m., falling over, trying to complete your projects. It's really been glorious to have you all. And we have 14 projects ready to ship that we hope can transform education in umpteen ways. So just a lot of humility to be able to be in the presence of a ton of people who are going to launch a bunch of world-changing technology. So first and foremost, we have two wonderful judges. Ayush, you want to stand up? So Ayush will be judging. So yeah, he's been cloud security engineer at Google and has a history of a success in tech. If I recall, you were one of you at tech events yourself. So we're wonderful to have you. And we have Casey, amazing to have her from Solar. And she'll also be judging. So if you, as she said, if you have an application of Solar OLM, do let it be known. So a few comments on presentations. Presentations will be timed to about 6 minutes, and we'll get 1 or 2 minutes for a QA from the audience. Obviously, you are pitching, so make sure the judges are impressed with what you do, but we also would love to learn from you. So if you can, show a bit of what's behind the scenes technically. What was the essential prompt that got you past some issue, or what underlying technologies did you happen to use that we might not know about? Because it can be an incredible learning experience to see, in the next hour or two, what is behind 14 distinct AI ed tech products. And the ideal is that this community is capable of building a tremendous number of distinct tools because we're all learning from each other. So 6 minutes, and alarm will go off at 6, and I'll try to move you along. So let's make sure that we get to completion. Are there any questions from the audience before we get moving? Requests? Okay. The last thing is that we have a cameraman, so after each presentation, we're going to do a photo of you with your team. And do raise your hand right now if you don't want to be photographed. You don't want to be photographed. Okay, Steve. Cool. Anyone else? And with that, we're going to open our presentation to a very meta presentation. It's plausible that you won't need to go to all of the pain and effort and struggle that you went through in creating your presentation, because Robert's new product, Presentation Assistant, will help you out. Here's to the future of presentation.
Thank you. Okay, can we see all right? Hi everyone, my name's Robert, and most speakers are frankly terrible presenters. We've all been there in the back of a lecture hall, and we can't even understand what somebody is saying. It's hard to follow. They're just reading from a couple of slides, or even I had a philosophy professor who literally had a 20-page paper that he would read at every lecture, and that was like his whole lecture. And as a result, listeners, it's really hard to comprehend and grab information from this. So I made a tool to help speakers be understood. There's a couple of key parts to this. It is a live transcript here in the bottom left, a generated summary of the key points, some links to look at for more information, and of course AI images. And so we'll do a live demo of this from scratch. We always start with cat images, as we should. This is a book about art and the brain. Visualizing your brain as a globe. Imagine millions of roads, highways, and bridges covering all areas. Trillions of streetlights on all of them. In some areas, there are super bright lights. In others, the illumination is fainter. Some roads might look abandoned, while others appear to be heavily trafficked. These are the electrical neural connections in our brain. For many people, neurons resemble trees with overlapping and interconnected branches. A comparison to something in nature, like a tree, helps us visualize the form and complexity of this infinite system in our head. An individual neuron has a nucleus that is the tender heartwood of the tree trunk. It's surrounded by the cell body, which is like the rings of sapwood and bark, protecting that center. Dendrites are the branches that sprout off these neural trunks and are capable of receiving signals from other neurons. The axon, meanwhile, is like the taproot, sending signals out into the world. You can see the complexity of these synaptic connections as the microscopic neuronal networks in a Petri dish. And so as I've been talking, we have this summary updating. If anybody walked in late or tuned out for a second, they can easily review the recent transcript. And over time, we want this, for these links to be accessible to the audience. And then we have these images generated as I'm speaking. The goal for this is to empower your listeners to understand you and fuel their curiosity to learn more. So that's the basic close of this. I'm happy to go into a little bit about the technical details, but first I'll invite any questions that anyone might have to start. Cool, so this is a pretty simple app. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Are you capturing voice as they're speaking, the actual recording, and then it's doing it real time?
Yeah.
Or is the recording that you've taken and then input it?
No, yeah, this is all live. So if we refresh again, this will start over in this kind of new context. It's deepgram for the transcription. I found that to be just kind of the best. So it transcribes the voice to get the text, and then it does basically a series of OpenAI calls. So the summary is OpenAI. I asked for links from OpenAI. OpenAI is surprisingly good at creating Wikipedia links, actually. So I'm not doing any live search. I'm just retrieving the preview from, I get the links from GPT, even though they're might be old or before the knowledge cutoff, they're still pretty accurate. And then I retrieve the images and summary just from an HTTP request to those URLs. And then it's DALL-E for the images, which are beautiful, but really expensive. In one day of generating 3 images every 10 seconds or so, I spent $200 on OpenAI, so it's not great. But they're gorgeous, it's nice. But I should probably save them. I'm not even currently saving the images to a database. So these are as ephemeral as this talk. That's all I've got. Does anybody, more questions?
Have you tried doing this with translation so that people with different languages could watch at the same time and see the feed in their language?
Yeah, that would be really cool. That's a super cool idea, and it makes me think of another topic coming up.
Yeah. Does it do any sort of speaker diarization to figure out how many people are talking, or is it just one person?
Yeah, so another way I like to use this is by playing an audiobook or a podcast and just watching it, because as I tune out or something, I can quickly review and things like that, or even a conversation, right? I'll call my dad or something and we'll be having some conversation and I'll be like, oh, that's an interesting representation. The transcript does not do diarization right now. Deepgram has that as a feature on their API, but it's not very good.
6 minutes.
Yeah, so thanks everyone.
Vocally, you are up. Podgraph.
Can I get a picture of it?
Oh, yeah.
great.
So, please go first. Okay, welcome to Vocal. We have a request from the audience. Vocal turns you into a creator. It lets you create educational videos. And so we'll take the knowledge that you have, the hard-won knowledge that you learned over the course of your life, and make you into a YouTube channel which educates the world about your subject of interest. So can we get an audience member to give us some kernel of knowledge that you've learned over the course of your life that we can in real time turn into a presentation? Rohan, you look so excited. Rohan.
So in Puerto Rican Spanish, should I just like explain it to you and then you want to translate it?
Sure.
So
What's like
Already
a
like
one
that.
sentence summary? You can add more, but just for the purpose of the demo.
In Puerto Rican
The
Spanish,
next demo.
when you have an R at the end of a syllable, it's perceived by non-Puerto Rican speakers as an L.
Okay. Maybe we can like zoom out and say like I want to teach the nuances of like different Spanish dialects. How about that?
Sure.
Okay. I have a picture of, we'll call him Brian. Brian's going to be doing the teaching, so I'm going to copy this and paste it. And this is going to start the process of doing the magic on the back end. And yeah, we'll show it to you guys when it's done.
Amazing. So yeah, and in 3 or 4 minutes, we'll all hear about these dialect nuances. We're going to jump into a quick pitch of Vocal concept and the idea. Take it away.
So now let me tell you why we created Vocal. The idea is for any of you to be able to speak to your communities super easily and teach what you know. So our belief is that the future of education is any one of you will be able to share super easily what they know to their communities, build around them, and have social interaction. Why this? Because all of you have very unique specific expertise about something that you can share. And the second thing is that most people prefer learning about someone, the face they can relate to, they know, and it just makes it much more efficient. More than this, it can help you create community, build stuff around you, and have more interaction, even ultimately selling products. So you could, any of you turn into like Alex Hormozy, or any of you learn from like, share videos of you explaining your unique piece of content. The reason why people don't do it is because creating content is so annoying. Writing is okay, and then like taking a video, you need to be very handsome, or you just need to like have the good lighting, good framework. Just it takes a lot of time. You need to use CapCut. So the world misses out on a lot of information because I guess many of you don't share information like videos of yourself explaining what you know, and most people like watching videos all the time. So our goal is to create a world where any of you can create and share their expertise super easily on their media, on YouTube, on wherever they want. So that's Vocal. We help you do this with a single prompt, and you probably wonder how. We started showing you, and now we can show you an example that we already made. So maybe you want to speak about your, so the way you do it, you just pick an avatar, you upload a picture of yourself, a straight picture. You write a few lines about like something that you're really passionate about, such as Puerto Rican dialect or anything else. And then a few minutes later, we receive a video. So we got our first customer that's here with us. We wrote him here, and we would love to hear to speak about your experience using it.
Hey, I'm Patricia. I work with generative models to instantiate 3D assets inside video games. And so the reason why I'm giving you this preface is because I actually talked about introspection in the nature of reality in this video. When they asked me about what I wanted to talk about, I wanted to share something that it's a lot about what I introspect and I would love to share with some people. And so, yeah, I guess you can hit it.
So this is the video we generated.
A journey unlike any you've embarked on. A journey that delves into the essence of our existence, the fabric of our being, and the boundless mystery that surrounds us. Here, at the Woo Woo Dolls, we are not just passionate about enlightenment, we are bananas for it. But not just any enlightenment, enlightenment at scale. A concept that challenges us to expand our consciousness beyond the confines of our immediate perception. Let's begin with a fundamental understanding. A truth.
That's a long
Yeah, so the video is really long, and I encourage you all to watch it, but it's super interesting, and we turn a single prompt into something that is very engaging and nice to hear. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah,
The prompt was only like 2 or 3 sentences long and ended up with a 3-minute video.
And you can decide if you want it longer or not the video. So please don't miss this opportunity of being vocal. Please all scan this QR code. You'll be able to like have your own videos, build it on for yourself. You can just share your expertise out there, put it on Twitter, and you'll get viral and you'll get vocal.
Cool. We have a little hiccup, so we're gonna unfortunately skip the video demo, but we do want to invite our mile runner in here, ultra marathon runner.
Right here?
Yeah, there, great. So our first, second paying customer. He's a user of Get Vocal. We created for him a YouTube video of him teaching everyone how to be an ultra marathon. So give us your vocal story.
Go in the middle.
Yeah, sure. So I was lucky enough to get a call today.
This morning.
This morning, to come and join you amazing people, and I'm just gobsmacked. But so I run ultra marathons. Started about 3 years ago. Had a tech company. Spent most of my time behind the desk, and then decided I was gonna start running. And so this was kind of a little way of giving back on
Good afternoon,
how I got
everyone.
from my couch to running ultras.
My name is David Brennan, and I'm here today to guide you through an incredible journey. A journey that will take you from the comfort of your couch to the exhilarating finish line of your first 50K mountain ultra marathon. This might sound like a distant dream, especially if your current form of exercise involves changing TV channels. But let me assure you, it's a dream within reach. By the end of our time together, you'll have the tools, knowledge, and motivation to embark on this life-changing adventure. Let's start at the very beginning, deciding to make a change. The first step in transitioning from the couch to an ultra marathon is not physical, it's mental. You have to
So everyone, we want to remind you that he did not make that video. It was generated from a static photo and literally 2 sentences. And you see how the generative AI really expanded on the content.
So a bit on the backside, we launched with a few technologies and the background, including Solar LLM. So if you go to getvocal.xyz, we have everything up and running. There's a
We'll drop the link of the generated video in the Slack when it's done. It takes a little while.
And I guess if you're interested in building something like this, the major technologies behind it are DID for speaking voice generation. We had a front end which was Nextras, and a back end just have been Flask, and everything's basically sent to a YouTube channel so that you can share a YouTube link, in a simple way. And so you just put in your email, you get a YouTube link sharing you with whatever idea or bit of knowledge that you happen to have. So get vocal.
Yeah.
What models are you using for the animation and lip syncing? I might have missed that.
DID.
What is it?
DID. So they're provided with an API which allows
DID.
you to give us a script. Yeah. So basically we go from user request to script generation.
Okay.
And the script generation is like the Solar LLM prompt that we sort of set up to expound on the details of the user's bit of knowledge. And then we send that script to a DID endpoint, which will construct a video link on DID servers.
Okay.
And then we have a YouTube API interaction process, which puts that YouTube video up so that we can send you an email link that contains you presenting whatever it might be.
Slick. That's awesome. And it does the voice as well?
It does, yeah.
What is the video generation model you use?
He just has a DID.
Yeah, just DID.
Yeah,
It does speech and it does.
It does. Yeah, it does both. And it does image overlay.
If you want to do custom voice generation with like 11 Labs or something, because I feel like that's a huge component. Like people have different voices. How would that sort of interplay with DID for the animation generation? Like, can you generate a separate voice transcript or like a separate voice recording and project it on top or something?
Yeah, they call like Microsoft's text to speech for
So yeah, we can give the user a set of voice options. They can pick the one that they feel is closest to their own. But I do think the future version of this, which operates at scale, really does want custom voice as well as custom image.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you, and it looks like you.
Yeah.
But,
So is it only connected to the YouTube APIs, or it can basically be hosted directly once it's generated into another channel, playlist, Spotify, they can share it out?
You can
From a
host it
distribution
anywhere.
perspective.
Yeah, you can host it anywhere. We just started with YouTube because it's like the easiest thing to generate a link that you can share with anyone.
Are there embeddings or more API calls?
No, we don't use any embeddings. Yeah, it just the result of the API. Once you tie everything together, returns a video link, and then you can download it, host it wherever you want.
And how did you all choose DID? I know there are models that will do from an image you can do lip syncing, right? And so that could have maybe be a way to do 11 laps with a voice and then the lip syncing. Did you consider other approaches, or were you set on the DID models from the start?
Yeah, we considered other stuff, but we thought this was just the easiest because we didn't have a big time window to get stuff implemented.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Were there any other really the second thing you almost did, but it was slightly more complex, or wouldn't be able to be done?
Yeah, there's a popular one called Laugh to Live, but basically you upload a video and it will overlay the text that you want them to say instead of what they actually say. But the issue is it's more friction for the user because then they have to upload a video and not just get a picture of themselves.
That's called Laugh to Live.
Laugh to Live.
What is it?
Laugh to Live.
Oh, WAV.
Yeah.
To live.
Yes.
Nice, thanks.
This is super impressive. Do you do this whole thing in the duration hack?
We did, yeah.
And you have 2 customers at this point.
Yeah, we do.
yeah. So a big shout out to Ruby for being our marketing person.
Yeah.
The
and
concept
attracting
idea,
all
the
of-
strategy idea. Okay, so
Yeah,
are we gonna
attractive.
do the group photo?
So yeah, I guess that we are publicly launching right now, and so I just sent out a tweet of the first public launch of Vocal. So if you think that what we're doing is awesome, I'm about to hit Slack with a tweet that you can send out.
Literally, his thing was done in 10 minutes this morning. And then his thing was done 10 minutes this morning also.
Yeah.
And 2 sentences, 2 text sentences, right? 2 or 3 text sentences and a photo. It'll look like they actually did the video. They did not do the video at all.
Can I ask about the voice? So did they, do you have a system where it detects the person's voice and the accent and dialect,
Not as yet.
No,
but,
no.
But,
that's essential. So definitely gendered voicing is important as
so you just picked a voice
Yes, exactly.
that's similar.
Exactly, yeah.
And the only movement of the video is on the face and lips, right? Not the body, clearly, just like said.
Yeah. So one thing we recommend is upload a more top half picture so that it's less. It's the
So
bottom
it's
half
not
is not
like
moving.
what's
Yeah, and only the top
stuck
half is moving. So there are a couple of areas for improvement for sure.
and the launch feed is live with a video of this presentation. So.
You have a question?
If you guys are over time, I can ask afterward. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, just wondering if you when you use solar, how much time saving or the cost saving that you've had.
Yeah,
on
so,
GPT side,
Yeah, it was a really simple use case. I guess it's time sensitive because we want to basically give you the video as quickly as possible.
Right.
In the context of a presentation.
Uh-huh.
So that's super helpful. Solar responds almost immediately.
Okay.
Which is nice.
Nice, thank you.
Cool.
Okay,
Thank you.
photo?
Shift this way just a little bit so I can get the AGI house behind you.
Oh, cool.
Okay, where do you want us?
Yep, that's great. Just like that. Nice. Good.
So that was Get Vocal. Podgraph is up. Listen, chat, learn. You're on it. Okay, so the world of podcasts is filled with fascinating information. Everyone's been educated by podcasts, but it's so large and it's unclear where you're going to find that bit of information that you know and love. And so Podgraph has created a graph-based system for detecting the best educational podcasts for you. Take it away.
Yeah. Well, hello everyone. I'm Anupam, DC,
Leo,
and we are Podgraph. Podgraph makes podcasts visual and explorable. So to talk a little bit about our inspiration before we dive into our lovely product, we were inspired by this little fun app called Nowell.fun, which is a game. But the idea is you're given these root nodes like water, fire, wind, earth, basically like very basic elements, and you're asked to combine them and lead to interesting new places. So like you take earth and you combine that with steam and you get something different. And so it's this like kind of pattern building where you go down this progression to end up at something very specific. So you start very general and you get more and more specific as you build. And so we kind of took this idea to focus in on how can we make podcasts explorable in the same way, because we listen to podcasts today, often while we're running or doing dishes or something. And so we wanted to make it so that it's both visual, but also kind of lets you take it in different avenues and explore like what happens when these concepts come together. So that's why our graph-based editor exists.
So let's actually go to a live demo. So here we have a podcast that we've analyzed, and you'll see there's a couple of different colors of nodes. You can think of that like a temperature on a conventional LLM. So the blue nodes are nodes that are quite tightly extracted from the podcast, and the yellow or more orange nodes are actually things that are generated that are kind of references. So let's say if I start off on the blue node, Alien, and this is from an Alienware acquisition, we see the context of the podcast on the right. It was an audacious acquisition, and we've cached a lot of these requests, so you see a lot of them are coming in quite quickly. Strategic dealings. This particular podcast was all about a corporate acquisition. As I get further down here, so this one starts to take some time because it's not cached, so it's doing some analysis to actually generate related things. And eventually at the end you get to these more yellow kind of fringe nodes, and at this point we're talking about like entrepreneurial spirit or other things that are just kind of related ideas that you can explore that are in that podcast. And then you'll see that there are often links in here. So for example, entrepreneurial spirit is driven by innovation or aims to achieve market disruption. This is a little bit more of an MBA than our usual technical hackathon, but this was the content that we started with. So if you then click on here, now you're off exploring latent space basically for ideas that were inspired by the podcast but are actually not at all contained within it. So that's what this is. It's not really a summarization tool. I mean, in future you can use it to just click on these nodes and random access anything that's locked up in a podcast, jump right to the content you don't know about. But then you can use it to explore your own ideas and go straight off into space. And we'll explain some of the magic behind how we did it.
So part of what inspired this was there was a paper out late January, early February that goes through like a recursive, going through to organize your podcast or your documents into a structure that goes from the high level summary down to the actual like individual parts. So we broke up a podcast into like chunks of 1,000, and those are the leaf nodes. And then essentially took a summary, grouped them together using clustering, and then got a summary level of that, and kept on going up, just trying to optimize for the right amount of chunks within there. So for example, this podcast was over an hour long, broke down to 120 chunks, and then got summarized into 30 chunks, and then 5, and then 1. So that kind of like helps you guide the exploring of the topics of the actual podcast. However, we also generate other interesting nodes to essentially like the other colored ones, the yellow and the to allow you to explore off what was not in the podcast.
So the really cool thing is these kind of RAG kind of vector-based nodes, these are literally pulled from the data of the podcast. It's literal topics that are mentioned and then matched and summarized and grouped. And we end up with one kind of big summary node, which was like the Alienware, and we get more and more specific. And then we get to play a fun little game of generatively fill in the gaps. So that's like those, Alienware is an example of a computer company, which was founded by Michael Dell. So that's where those links kind of come from. So we've kind of taken the podcast, we've extracted the primary topics from it, we've shown them to you to explore, and then we've kind of given you these new nodes to continue jumping off of and exploring and teaching you how they're connected to that central idea so you can continue to grow in your own knowledge and kind of move outwards. That's Podgraph. Thank you guys.
Can you link back to like cite the sources in the podcast that led to this node? Like what's up with that whole piece?
So, that's four finger. So actually, if you look on the right, these are actually the source things. Yeah. So this is like pulling the source chunk. We were going to implement like live lookups on the podcast, but we ran out of time with it there.
This actually gives you a good idea of how the podcast is broken down. Sometimes when you do like tree structured RAG, is that you're not sure what are in the middle nodes of the summaries, and this is great visualization because usually if you clicked on like this middle summary node, you have a summary off to the right, but you need to process all that text to get an idea of what the heck's in there. Where we actually like went ahead, got a one-word example of what potentially could be in there if you want to explore it.
Do you look at labeling and relabeling? Of course, you're discovering what's already there and how it was done, and then you're trying to add value. But once you understand, you can redistribute the whole labeling structure in a much more logical structure. Is that already there, or that's something you're thinking?
There is actually a kind of, we're creating like an on-the-fly ontology of the nodes that are there, but we're not referencing any kind of public ontology graphs. We basically, like these little nodes that have the meaning and the categorization to them, that's, they were ephemeral nodes, but now we're caching them. So we could then create our own kind of much more structured knowledge graph.
Something that's actually really cool, I think to your question of like, normally when you might break down a podcast, you might separate by table of contents or speakers.
Yeah.
But what we've done is actually like in that fun little graph that we showed, I get back to, it's four fingers, sorry. So if you look at this graph, we actually traverse this tree downward where we turn a podcast into 120 chunks and then summarize it into 30 chunks and then 5 and then 1 and we go back up the tree. So we actually do recreate a more logical structure that goes from very disparate big ideas to very specific small ones. So we actually do reorg the podcast. Yeah.
Stand for a quick photo.
Ready? Nice.
Great. James is gonna show us how to chat with a podcast in order to learn, and then Liam and Caden are gonna show us how to have information retrieval from your conversation. So listen, chat, and learn. Take it.
Thanks. I get scared.
Hi, I'm James. Cool. So I'm trying to accelerate my own learning. I've been learning Chinese for a while, Mandarin, but I kind of got out of the habit recently. I couldn't really motivate myself, so I said, oh, for this hackathon, maybe I'll think of something. And so I've been trying to listen to some podcasts in Chinese. I don't know if does anyone here speak Mandarin? So like, you might. Okay, so I'm listening to this podcast and you're all like, okay, what's going on? My Chinese is not that good. So so basically, then I can just say, what's happening? And okay, a grandmother is telling a story with a unique title. So then you kind of keep listening through, and as I just get lost, again maybe later on, I'll just I can say what's happening again, and it'll sort of guide me on track. I can say something different. I can say like, can you give me some different vocab words from this part of the story? And yeah, so this is now based off of like the part of the story that we're in now, that we're listening to now. So my eventual idea where I want to take this is that it's just like completely hands-free, because I love listening to podcasts to learn things, and then I also love like just chatting with the ChatGPT app to learn different things. And I thought, oh, that would be really cool if I could just switch back and forth, and then it would also be like listening along with me and teaching along with me. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions? I can go through how I made it. It's super simple. Yeah. Yeah.
So how would you imagine that? Basically I have the podcast that I'm learning French, and okay, this 1 second I want to interrupt this podcast and ask my question. What was it about? What's the vocabulary? How do you spell that?
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on that? How could that be happening?
Sure. Actually, that's exactly what I want to make. And then I just thought, oh, what's something easy I can make in that direction? So I made this. I think making like a voice assistant where you can go back and forth is the goal. I think like the next thing I would do is like try out. I've seen a couple demos that do that, okay, but I've never. So if anyone has done that before and they want to like show me how to turn this into like full voice experience, that'd be cool. Yeah.
How do you grab context for like answering the questions? Like, are you just grabbing a transcript of the whole podcast? And if you want to have like a 3-hour-long podcast and it doesn't all fit in context, do you have plans for like how you would do context selection?
Oh yeah, so I'm just transcribing the podcast and then taking like the recent chunk for a given time frame.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I mean, I've run into some issues with those kinds of approaches for like meeting summarization.
Yeah. What's the issue?
Like long range dependencies, right? So like someone in the current part of the story might have last been mentioned several chapters ago or something.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That would be tricky.
Yeah. One way to solve that is like named entity linking. But this is all like 2022 era like hacks.
Hope someone else will solve that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Can they solve that in the previous presentation? Like, you just use that tree.
Yeah, actually, I think we just solved that. So I think I'm all set. Yeah. That's perfect. Is anyone here learning a foreign language?
Yeah.
Does anyone here listen to audio for that language? Okay, cool. Cool.
One question. So what is, in your mind, the ideal user interface for this? Because I listen to podcasts with the Apple Podcast app, but I don't know how I would do this.
For me, the ideal interface, for me, this is just the demo interface. For me, the ideal interface is it's in your pocket and you don't even touch it. So, rather, I think when I'm using the ChatGPT audio interface app, I actually just put it like, I'm not touching it, we're just talking and listening. So I think it would just detect if you're talking, and then it will stop, and then it would answer your question, and then it could go back to playing. That would be the idea. Yeah. Cool. That's it. Oh yeah.
Recall. Liam Caden.
Nice.
Margarita. Upskill.
Yeah, there's a few different things like into this conversation.
Okay, recall. Take it away.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Caden. My name is Liam. Nice to meet you guys. The original idea, I think most people heard at the beginning, but really looking to solve the problem of a student goes in for office hours, whether that's with a tutor, with a professor, discusses topics that they possibly are unclear of, and being able to revisit that and understand where knowledge gaps are, what was talked about. An example, in the last 24 hours, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of really, really smart people here, and some of the topics don't fully understand, would love a way to revisit those and to be able to say, oh, what were they talking about? and how can I look deeper into that topic. So what we built here today is recall.
Yes, so I'm going to start by talking about the technical aspect a little bit, and then I'll show you guys the demo. So front end was built with React, back end was built with Express. We use a simple transcription model with speaker diarization, I think that's how you say that word, which is able to isolate individual speakers in a given audio recording. And then we make a simple GPT-4 request to extract some insights. And with that being said, yeah. See if the audio works.
Yeah, so what we have here is a recording of someone clearly probing about a topic. So it's an adult to a child.
Tell me a bit more about PlayStation. Seriously, both my boys are really grown up and left home now, so I've got no idea what it is. How does it work?
Well, you can have it's up to 4 players on it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, it goes on and sort of inquiring about what is PlayStation, how does it work, how do you use it? So use that MP3 to download. So whether you recorded that on your phone, can also record using this by clicking the button and get a summary of what that conversation was about, and for the person inquiring about PlayStation, what they can dig into more after.
Yes, so, wow, that's perfect timing. So this is sort of the content we generate, and the first thing we provide is just a basic summary of the conversation. The next thing we provide is sort of the major topics, and we haven't built it yet, but we plan to make these expand into more usable insights. And this is sort of the most important insight, I would say, is identifying knowledge gaps, because it's really hard to remember like an entire conversation, right? So this is something you would really want to revisit after the fact. And then we also provide a detailed transcription that you can review at the end. And yes, this is live. We have it deployed. You can use it. It works on mobile. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's do any questions? You can do it live. Yes.
So when you're recalling, like, are you storing information, or what does the mem systems look like? Like, how are you looking at memory in this case?
Yeah, so it's not being stored right now. I think that's a great potential future feature to be able to reference multiple conversations and have really just a knowledge graph of all past conversations and being able to group by topic, by person that you've spoken to. But right now, nothing is being stored.
Basically, we send it to an Amazon bucket and then take that URL and pass it to the transcription service, then take the transcribed text and pass that into the OpenAI model. Hope that answers your question. Any other questions?
I guess, yeah, similar to Jeremy's question about the last project, like what in your mind is like the best form factor for this, or like what would a user, like UX be like, right? Like what kind of settings might I use this best in, and like how would I leverage those knowledge gaps to actually do something useful?
This is a really good point you bring up, actually. So one of the major like user feedbacks we've gotten is people think this is very similar to like a bot you add to your Zoom meeting that just summarizes it and prints out like the call to action items. This is specifically designed for like a student and a teacher, where there's an asymmetry in the knowledge base, and one user is specifically trying to obtain something. So like get help on a lab, say if you're a CS student, or study for a test with your TA. And so it's when you're trying to actually go out and learn something, right? So that's kind of the general use case, and the ideal implementation would be a mobile app that you just set on the desk, and then you and whoever have a conversation.
Can you just also create a browser plugin?
Sorry?
A browser plugin?
Yeah, I think a Chrome extension could be really cool. Making it really accessible to just say, hey, do you mind if I record this conversation, and be able to access that from web, whatever that is. That's a great idea. So here's a little summary of some of the questions that we just asked.
That's pretty much it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
deck, we have Rohan, code structure and control diffusion for textbook diagram generation.
No, that'd be good.
This is our other teammate. His name is Jasper.
Very food motivated.
He can't be separated from us.
He's a very good boy. Can you get down? You can sit.
Hey y'all, we are the Upskill. So who here wants to learn a couple of skills this year? Yeah, definitely. But do you really want to spend your time going through, like, I don't know, a LinkedIn course, Coursera, and do you think you'll actually be motivated to complete one of those courses? Probably not. It's really hard to do that when you have things like TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and so many other places you could go when you have some spare time and entertain yourself. So what we're aiming to do is make learning a lot more fun, a lot more accessible, and something that you would choose to go to when you have the free time to go learn new things. So we built the Upskill, which lets you go through TikTok, and we'll start right through a demo.
Sure thing. What should we learn?
Yeah, what would you all like to learn?
Dog training skills.
Sure,
Perfect.
let's do it. We'll generate a course on it.
That's exciting.
So we'll say.
That's gonna have a lot of good TikToks too.
By the way, while it's generating, I'm gonna say that having built this app, I've come to realize like just how much useful learning content there is on TikTok. It's just all really bite-sized, but that makes it perfect to like pick up and go along. Like I myself am gonna learn Figma, which I've struggled with for like over a year and a half now. Like how do I blend? How do I combine shapes? How do I whatever? Using exactly this method, I am super pumped by how accelerated my learning is gonna be by using this app myself.
So we're generating this course right now. It might take a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
So what we'll do
30 seconds.
Yeah, it'll take
We'll see.
like 30 seconds or so. It depends. But we could show one of our existing courses in the meantime that we've been generating. So we've been generating courses like how to do Figma or anything you want to learn. And so I know the lighting from this is a little bit, makes it hard to see, but what you see is what we first start with is we start by generating a set of modules, right? So we have our overall course, and then we tell OpenAI, generate 6 or more modules in order for me to learn this course. Then within each module, what we'll do is we'll scrape TikTok and find the most relevant informational videos for that module that you want to learn. So in this case, we're learning C++ basics. We've generated 6 modules related to C++ basics, and the first one it wants us to learn is arrays and strings C++. So let's watch the TikTok, and then we'll answer a question that we generate by transcribing the TikTok content. Also, we watch every second in the TikTok, and we kind of capture an image from it, and that way, because we're able to describe the TikTok, we're able to generate a question that's extremely relevant to its context to make sure you understood what you just learned.
Yeah. And by the way, Claude 3 is beyond epic at generating these syllabi. It's way beyond anything I imagine a human can do, to be honest. We did use it in the beginning, but then we ran into some API rate limit issues. So we built it so you can use either GPT-4 or Claude 3. GPT-4 also does an excellent job. That's what you're seeing right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess you could learn, you could read whatever this is. I still don't know anything about C++, unfortunately. So we could answer the questions and make sure we understood what was happening in this TikTok. Johnny can answer them now.
What's up? I don't know if I can.
We have to get it right to go on to the next question. So, and to go on to the next module as well to make sure you actually learn.
Let's do how to train my dog. That's the way more fun example. So.
Huh?
Ask the audience.
Oh,
So yeah, so as you can see, this is how to train your dog. Here are the subtopics: establishing commands, house and crate training, leash and outdoor training, behavior modification, and socialization with animals and other people. I've trained a dog before. I think this is a tremendous syllabus. I mean, any dog owners, you can feel free to comment. And then for each topic, you're gonna find a hyper-specific TikTok video that is just less than a minute and is exactly about that topic. Like, Jasper, sit. There you go. Right? So, I mean, no, it's great. Congratulations, confetti. Right? Should we show them the extra credit part?
What's the extra credit?
Yeah. So not only have we implemented the subtopics and finding the exact perfect video, we've also implemented a chat-based interface using Solar, which is really speedy thanks to the Solar. and you can ask questions about anything in this course. And then for even extra credit, you want to show them, like, ask them, like, my cat can't follow the syllabus, like, what do I do, right? And you're gonna see something pretty cool, we hope. Yeah, I'm struggling to train my cat using this methodology, right?
Yeah.
Just because cat training is different. And so when you actually send that question to the API, it will suggest new modules that need to be created based on like what you're discussing. And then with one click, you can just have a cat training syllabus and a dog training syllabus.
So you can kind of keep diving into your curiosity. So let's say I want to know more about the dog training and then this specific unit. I could ask about that and generate a whole new module, grab more TikToks on that specific
Let's
concept.
see, it says here cats and dogs have different cognitive structures and motivation systems. Train your cat with cat-specific techniques like positive reinforcement and clicker training. Create a module based on how to train my cat. And this way, your learning follows you as you explore and discover the world of knowledge influencers, which we've already touched on. And we think for accelerated learning, this is something very different because we're capitalizing on what's already there, what people already know, what people are already addicted to, and we're turning it into something very useful, gamified, that they can share, like, wow, I learned, and follow their interests. Good job to Margarita, it's her idea, and James, they've been working on this for a while. I piled on, but I think this is amazing.
You could talk about the back end as well and how we implemented Solar and all the other things.
Yeah, we tried a bunch of models. Solar was definitely extremely competitive when it came to giving short answers very fast. We used Claude 3, which was amazing, but we ran into rate limits and speed issues, so GPT-4 was the way, but I think in future you probably might do a hybrid. We put in the code for Gemini. We didn't really have the time to try it because of the hackathon. And then the other part that was really fun is scraping. TikTok was really fun and challenging, so when we actually launched this as an app, it turns out they're using like an Android app that they host in a web view. So like pulling the cookie out of there to actually download the videos, it was a whole like scraping thing. But we believe that we can ship it so that you can sign in with your own TikTok account. And then as long as you have your own view, it's your TikToks. Yes, questions?
Did you, sorry, you can go first.
It's fine.
Alright, did you, like for the TikTok scraping, is that an external library or did you engineer?
No, we did it ourselves.
You should open source that.
We
Okay.
Open source everything.
Yeah. Yeah. For a while, we were downloading the wrong videos, like lots of creepy
There was some weird API thing. I accidentally included $, and then it was downloading like
creepy videos.
People making like steak, and then some like weird.
It's there. I think it's just a tone of bait.
Anyway, we need more questions.
For the TikTok scraping, are you guys doing anything more complex than just like searching for queries and then downloading like whatever the most upvoted ones or the most liked ones are?
No, we're using TikTok search, but TikTok search is the most used learning search in the world. Like TikTok and YouTube are like number 1 and number 2 for like actually searching for like how to learn X.
Actually, an interesting stat is I think under 23 or under 24, they're actually using TikTok as a search engine more than they are using Google. And so if kids are already learning everything they need to know through TikTok, or not even kids, young adults, why not do it for your learning? Why not make this your addiction, but learning things and practicing?
Look how good this is. This is understanding your cat now. So how to train my cat? Understand cat behavior. Teach simple commands to your cat. I didn't know you could do that. Train your cat to use a litter box. Discourage unwanted behavior from cats.
We didn't see that one.
It's fine. Positive reinforcement training for cats. So I want to see this one myself. You know, let's spend our last minute this way. Teach your cat tricks. Is that really a thing?
Do the trick down. Luckily, you can do this in just 3 easy steps. Hold the treat to the ground and slowly drag it towards you and away from your cat while saying the command down. Your cat will naturally lower to the floor while trying to grab the treat.
So, just going back to the Android web view you're using, how scalable is that as a solution if you have to deploy?
That's what TikTok uses. They basically, their web app that we're scraping from is actually, I bet the original version was like an Android app, and they like posted it on web.
They're using
so that's why it's
hosting
just
that.
weird.
But that was just scraping. They have an actual API that's officially available. You can only search it by hashtag. You can't use their search. So it's mostly just for the search functionality. That's excellent. We believe that this is popular in the way that we promote it. They will either add it to their API or this approach is technically legal as long as you log in with your own.
They have a research API which allows you to search based on text, but that requires that you submitted a research proposal and you're with an institution. So it's only for research purposes, not for applications.
Do you imagine a future where instead of right now you're searching on the basis of queries, but you have a catalog of what's available, and the curriculum is built based on what is actually
No, we want to generate.
We're
so the
building a
curriculum,
curriculum.
yeah. So TikTok is a proxy for actually generating great AI content. So in the absence of a good matching TikTok video, we want to generate a learning module in that place.
So that's the
But the TikTok content is so excellent, it really there's billions of videos. Like yeah.
How are you ranking the most relevant videos at just the top results?
TikTok search and the query we're sending to TikTok is excellent.
Okay, so you just plug the top one.
Hyper focused. We actually do an LLM eval because sometimes the top one is like a question or a shock video. So we evaluate it for education purposes.
And then take the next one.
And then take the next one and the next one and the next one, yeah.
So it looks like quite a bit of the capability is really coming directly from TikTok. What is your capability that you're actually, because you're pulling everything, the videos are there, they have the search functionality, and you're able to leverage a lot of how TikTok puts these together. So what part of the model on this side is that generating a curriculum format, structured learning
That's us.
format?
It's not just
Video
the
generation
content.
obviously is not here, it's just like, oh, just pulling a relevant clip from TikTok, right? That's what you're doing. So my question really here is, from an evolution, is it just a feature that TikTok can introduce automatically
No,
to them?
it's a different approach
Or
entirely.
is there a product that's foundationally different?
There is a
than
product.
TikTok?
The part that you may be different is that we would generate the content, pull it from YouTube. So the idea is the best of what you can access will appear here. Whether it's generated by our AI or whether it's pulled from YouTube Shorts, pulled out of a podcast, pulled from
But will it
TikTok.
always be a structured learning format? Looks like it's like very much like a MOOC approach. Like, you know, it's like structured like a MOOC modules and then timed and question answers. So very structured learning format. So is that the primary model of learning that you're thinking right now about this?
We can explore different models, but I don't think it's quite accurate that we're using just the TikTok. We're only using TikTok for grabbing the actual video. What we then do on our end is we transcribe the video and we're also capture the content of the video. So we take a picture basically of each second from that video. And then what we're able to do is describe it in text. So we make a description what exactly is happening in this video, and because now we have that transcription and the description that we've generated,
We can generate question
generate the
types.
questions.
Tell about the code sandbox and the Figma types.
Yeah.
So we have more question types than just multiple choice. Please, Margarita, you tell us.
Just a follow-on question. Thanks for clarifying, but I was kind of
No,
curious
she,
about
she
that.
wants to show you Figma here and actually have you select like what you discovered. So you can have many, many interactive types of questions and answers. It's just for the purpose of the hackathon, we kept it really simple, right? Like
Do you
code sandboxes.
encounter any copyright issues of content?
No, so we're using these like TikTok videos to help kids learn content, right? TikTok could have put security on their TikToks and made it impossible to download them from their website. But obviously, this takes you back to TikTok if you click on it. So it's great for them.
Yeah.
Now their videos are being used for education. In terms of what he was mentioning, because we're able to grab all this information from the TikTok and generate a description, what we really want to do is generate, let's say it's a coding course, like our C++ course, we're going to generate UIs as well. So it will be like a code sandbox here to apply what you just learned in your C++ course, and you can code it up really quick and press search and it will say, okay, that was the correct code that you just wrote. Or for example, if you're learning Figma, like Aditya wants to learn, maybe we could UI generate a little Figma example and build it out. And so because of that, we really, like, it's all because we're transcribing and describing the TikTok or the original content.
Can I speak to your original question on the copyright thing? We're using TikTok's actual embed API, and by doing that, every time you view the TikTok on here, they get a view on their TikTok. It interacts with them directly. You can visit their profile. It's all through TikTok. We're not like downloading the video and re-uploading it. It's all through the TikTok embedding. Yep. So
That's really smart because eventually you'll be able to cache enough results that you don't have to use the unofficial API too much.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry.
Can I get a picture? Like,
Oh yeah, let's see a picture. Jasper,
I'll lift him up. Let me get him up.
will you fold the laptop? Yeah. Oh, nice. Jasper. Oh, there we go.
Nice.
Alright, okay, that was short from Upskill. We now have Rohan, who's going to do textbook diagram generation. On deck is Steve with Envision, a diagram data set.
So there's two components to my presentation today. The first is a proof of concept. So the first is a proof of concept about textbook diagram generation. So if you ask DALL-E to like generate a diagram of a neuron, for example, it'll like make things up. Like, what is an axpon sheet? What is a nopes? The nopes are very important to neurons.
Synaptids.
Yeah. So these kind of diffusion models aren't that great at doing structured thinking and structured visuals. So what are approaches that we can take to like generate these more structured, diagrammatic kind of visuals that really teach us something rather than just looking cool? The approach I started taking and sort of build a proof of concept of yesterday was using code generation to create these structured visuals, almost like a scaffold of the diagram. So if you ask GB4 to generate code to like sort of create a schematic of a neuron, it'll generate this, which is schematically correct, right? You have dendrites on the left, which input to the soma, and the soma outputs via this axon. And what we can then do to make it look actually interesting rather than just this super bland matplotlib sketch. So the code that GB4 generates, I just render that with matplotlib. But to make it look more interesting and actually like a textbook diagram, what we can then use is ControlNet. So what ControlNet does is it's this image condition diffusion model where you get the input, you get an input image as well as a prompt, and the input image, it sort of turns into these like border structures. It identifies as like the boundaries and uses them to sort of structure its generation. So you can sort of see here, it's sort of dark, but like the dendrites are still labeled, the soma is still labeled, the axon is still labeled, the color scheme is kind of bad, yeah, and it still does just maintain like arrows for the inputs and outputs, but at least it looks kind of cool. So yeah, proof of concept vibes. I think with something slightly less restrictive than ControlNet, ControlNet is really obsessed with this like the borders specifically, but look, I'm interested in looking into ways where we can like sort of train these models that follow the structure, right? Like it's like, oh, things should, like I should have something over here, but then I can maybe build like some structure around it, right? I can have some myelin sheath kind of thing that I can draw on top. So yeah, this is proof of concept 1. And on top of this, I think there's also another interesting approach where we use the generated structured visuals to then go and fine-tune the diffusion models themselves, so that we sort of distill this structured visual thinking ability into the diffusion model. The second thing that I started working on later in the day was Llama Gym, which started at AGI House a month and a half ago. Llama Gym is a framework to fine-tune LLM agents with online reinforcement learning. So it's accelerated learning for LLMs, not for humans.
Awesome.
So yeah, this scaled to like, I launched it this morning, it was 0 stars, now it's sitting at like 248 stars. It's front page on Hacker News right now. It was like #1 on Hacker News earlier in the morning, and it's like, it was on r/local llama. Yeah, definitely if you, in the transition period, I guess, or while you're asking questions, I'd appreciate more Hacker News upvotes.
How does it work?
Yeah, I should talk through that, yeah. Llama Gym, so the general idea is like, we want to fine tune agents with, so currently when we use LLM-based agents, right, you just throw the LLM in and you give it some tools and whatever, and it just runs an inference. But how can we actually get it to learn from its environment via interaction, right? Like sort of like humans do. We sit around with like a game and we like play the game a bunch of times and we get better. That's like the promise of reinforcement learning. So trying to bring that over to LLMs, there's like ways you could set this up from scratch, but it's going to require a lot of boilerplate. Llama Gym basically allows you to do this in just a few lines of code. You define this agent, like this agent abstract class. You just implement a class of it, and then you define three things. You define a system prompt for your agent. You define a function that takes an observation from the environment and maps it into a string, like a message that you'll feed in to your LLM. And then you define a function that extracts an action from your LLM based off of the message that it responds with. And with those three things, and just like a standard reinforcement learning loop, this is just like basically standard boilerplate you'll see in any reinforcement learning training approach. Your LLM will learn via reinforcement and basically get better as it continues to interact with its environment. So yeah, accelerated learning in some adjacent sense. But yeah, those are the two things I worked on. Would love to take questions on either of them. And looking forward to your Hacker News upvotes. And
Post the link.
Yes, back. You can just go to news.ycombinator.com. Yes.
Did you work on the package like you started this weekend?
No. So the package started at the NeurIPS Hackathon, which was here a month-ish ago. Okay. But at that point, it wasn't a package. It was just some experiments in like a Jupyter notebook. Earlier this week, I sort of started turning it into like a more formal package. And yeah, basically as of yesterday, I went and fixed a ton of stuff. I actually hadn't run it. I hadn't run a single line of the code until yesterday. So I went through and ran it and got it working and everything last night. Yeah. I was up to like 5:30 a.m. or something. I had like half a Celsius, but I don't drink caffeine. Yeah.
I just gotta say this is very inspirational. I have a half-finished hackathon project that I think is bio. So next hackathon I go to, I'm definitely gonna think of pivoting like you. Thanks.
Yeah. I think we want to make it somewhat of a norm. Like Jeremy and I have talked, get people to launch like here, right? Like, and I think with Vocal it's great. I encourage all of you to like launch what you've built so far. Yeah.
2 launches today.
Yeah. Sick. Yeah.
So this is actually really cool because we should start forgetting humans and then go agent.
Yeah.
For long, so I'm all for it. So are you even already thinking about how can this automatically become an underlying feature for a multimodal agent environment that you're actually building as models? Means the same agents can now be deployed to teach a course, create a course, just almost all functions and tasks. So how are you seeing, because if it can train itself, reward itself, and continue to keep developing itself, then it can basically do anything it wants to.
Yeah, this is like the promise of like recursive self-improvement.
Yeah, totally, right?
I think there's a lot of cool stuff that can be done there. Specifically with respect to multimodal, you mentioned someone in the comments on Twitter actually mentioned that they were curious about throwing Lava into this and seeing how it does. So we might get a PR for like a vision language version of this soon. I saw one question over here.
Well, first of all, the name is really cool.
Llama Gym?
Yeah.
I was very surprised that the PyPy package was, you can pip install Llama Gym.
And the icon is really good. It worked.
Thank you.
Are you effectively like generating like input output pairs, like, and then rewarding? Like, how does can you explain in more detail like how this reward mechanism works?
Yeah, so we use PPO. So normally PPO is like used for reinforcement. So the reward mechanism itself comes from the environment, right? So OpenAI, back when it was like a reinforcement learning company, they created this library called Gym, and Gym implements a bunch of environments like Blackjack, where you can input an action. Either you input 0 and you stay, or you input 1 and you hit. And then like based off of whether you win that round, you get a -1 reward or a +1 reward. So the rewards come deterministically from the environment. You can also have non-deterministic environments, whatever. But then the real, like the algorithmic part is about how you go and do the credit assignment problem, right? And that's where like PPO comes in. PPO, you pass it a reward, you pass it the queries as well as the LM's completions. And then it basically sorts out all the credit assignment stuff, does a backprop. From there, there's a ton of crazy internal stuff for how PPO works. But yeah, like it's a ton of extra technical baggage that I had to build from scratch, and now you can just do it with like defining those 3 prompt functions. Yeah.
If I didn't want to fine tune, like let's say I had an agent and I was just using some they provided, right?
Yeah.
Is there any way to like persist the learnings in some way that I can just like connect to some API, and like you'll still train the model, but you're not fine tuning it, and then you can use the like persisted information in some way in the context or something.
Okay, so there is this approach called reflection, which came out last year, which is a context, like it's a non-parametric reinforcement learning approach.
Sure.
Like rather than fine-tuning the model, it like basically does reinforcement learning by building context based off of errors. It's sort of just like critique feedback. It's an interesting line of work, but I don't know. I really want to work on like online RL stuff. So.
Is this better? Like
No, probably not. Probably not. Like in the sense that RL, like online RL is very hard to like actually get to converge. I saw minor improvements on some of the blackjack models, but it's still very difficult to get. Like I have to go in and like figure out all the hyperparameters, and you might need a supervised fine tuning step on like sampled trajectories before actually doing RL to get optimal performance. But like this works in the sense that like it backprops and the code runs and everything like that. But like to get it working for your specific use case, you might have to fuck around with hyperparameters. Last
Is there
question, yeah.
any use case where you're like, oh, I think this is gonna work great? Easily.
Like, I feel like blackjack is probably the one. Like I did see learning with some with some training runs for blackjack.
Cool.
But yeah, it's hard to say. Am I doing this wrong? Yeah, but I encourage you to like the reason I wanted to open source it is I want to make it super easy for people to test around with a bunch of different RL environments. For this. Yeah. Glad to take questions after.
Amazing. Steven, you're up. Really soon with archived videos.
Yeah. I mean, it's on GitHub and Python.
Okay, great. So, so my goal is to be able to learn anything visually, especially technical and scientific information. And often when I'm reading or I'm working with a language model to try to understand something, it gives me walls of text, and I want instead some quick intuitions visually. And I'm also interested in diagram generation. But there are already a lot of good diagrams made by people who have thoughtfully composed diagrams to explain concepts. And so I want to build a massive data set of technical diagrams and then be able to, one, do retrievals on that and make it an API so that if people are building a video tutorial or they're constructing a blog post, they can quickly access useful visual aids to convey those ideas. And so this could turn into an API that's used by other projects or too. So I walk you through what I did. I have this thing always freezes. Getting the spinning circle again. Okay.
So what does it take as input? What prompt?
So it takes as input. So I have this. Okay, well this is working. So I have about 150. These are just 150 machine learning textbooks that are part of this larger corpus of technical textbooks. So I have about 100 subjects and maybe 200 textbooks for each subject. And so I go through and run the script that extracts extracts the captions as well as every place that it's mentioned in the text. So, for example, sometimes people will write, there'll be both a caption and then a sentences in the paper that refer to figure one, for example. And so I go through every PDF and extract all the references for every diagram. And then compile that into this data set. So that way, if you have a text query, you can match it to the most related captions and text descriptions for that diagram. And so you could say, you could give it a query like, show me the architecture for the transformer model, and then it would pull up this. So I have I made this gorgeous gallery to show you all the diagrams, and Chrome is freezing. So what I can do is, so I can sort of do it manually. So
all the time.
yeah, so we extract all the captions, and then we get some diagrams. So we extract all these, and then here's the next one. So here's the deep learning textbook. So we just go through and get like tons and tons of these different diagrams. And so now we have this big data set of pairs of the image as well as the captions. And so my next step is I want to put this on Hugging Face and just make it an open data set, and then make it an API so that if you're, say, wanting to make a video that is explaining how the transformer model works, you could just query this and immediately get the relevant diagrams for it. So that's it.
Questions for Steve?
Yeah.
So are you only grabbing the diagram and the description, or the entire broader context that's actually going as part of the explanation of what's what in the paper or the textbook?
Yeah,
it goes with a lot of granularity.
Yeah,
so how much is getting distilled?
Yeah, so I also grab all the text from the PDF. That's like straightforward. So I can also like embed that. And there, there's a lot of services that do that, and so I wanted to focus on the diagrams for this project. Yeah.
But is it happening through an embedding framework?
Yeah, so I can pass the captions. I didn't do that step, but I can pass the captions to like a vector database along with the image. So, yeah.
So basically, you made a library where you take a PDF and then you convert that into a gallery, into like a labeled gallery, right?
Yes.
So I can use this for any PDF.
Yes.
And is it just like running a Python script and then passing in the PDF?
Yeah, it's like run a Python script with a PDF URL or a directory of PDFs.
Yeah.
So like last night, I ran it on like this directory.
Yeah.
And then it just spits out all the diagrams.
Okay.
And this is using the Upstage AI API.
Oh, how are you using it?
For segmenting the PDFs. So it gives a bounding box for every text and image element.
Gotcha.
And then I may also add a step where I pass the images to GPT-4 Vision and say, is this a diagram? Because sometimes it just includes natural scenes, pictures, or other non-diagram image elements. And so I have something that says like, is this a diagram?
So you're using the OCR, the layout analyzer, or the software?
It's a layout analyzer.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Another question. So, have you thought about combining different types of diagrams? And when you think about like latent space or full diagrams compositionally, how do you think you can take it further and sort of combine different books within the same book, different types of diagrams?
So eventually, I would love to use this data set to create an actual generative model for diagrams. And maybe do some combination of creating a structured version with code, as Rohan was doing. Maybe combined with the top retrievals for that query.
There's a transformer now for ZX calculus, which is a quantum calculus for compositional interpolate spaces. So you can possibly use that.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I'll ask about that later. Yeah.
I'm saying if you're going to do this at scale, consider tying up with the Internet Archive.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of stuff.
2 minute papers, but automated.
Yeah, it's a very valuable library.
It is a lot.
Yeah, I thought about Twitter. Like, it'd be very cool to go from have a Twitter account I can follow for every textbook I want to read, which will absolutely teach me via a tweet that goes out, say, 3 times per day from every visualization that exists in that textbook. And give me a vision for generation
visualization model.
a functional image. Plausibly valid part of the text. Like what ultimate form factor do you have in mind?
I was thinking start with an API, and then let like your project, or if people are doing generative blogs or whatever, then to allow many form factors. I love the idea of making it using it to compress larger texts into like bite-sized learning units.
And is the outstage code for doing the data analysis in your repo?
For scraping the images?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
How hard is that to scrape?
It required a lot of fiddling. Yeah.
But you did the fiddling.
I did the fiddling. Yeah.
You mentioned that you want in the future you'd like to have an API or something of sorts where you can just search and you can get all these diagrams,
yes.
Combine them for videos and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you plan to add a way to understand or like have better, contextual keywords for each of these diagrams to enable that search?
Yeah, so there's ways of doing like label augmentation, and so you can I would take the initial caption and sentences that describe it, and then ask a language model to generate additional descriptions based on that summarize it. I think there's tools that do this with text now too, where you say like create nice question answer pairs based on some paragraph. So.
And also the million context that Gemini is aiming is actually quite good. So I would, I really like that because essentially what you're doing is you're going for a pretty large singular focus but million context model. I mean, I think that's a really big thing right now. It'll be really cool that you take this to a million of those pieces, particularly aimed at this, and that's an entirely different contextuality.
Yeah.
That's very hard to achieve otherwise.
Are there any other ideas on how people would want to use this in their products? Yeah.
It seems really useful for like a latex editor or like a Google Slides, like a preview experience that just automatically finds diagrams.
Here we go. Here's the gallery. So it gets, sometimes there's a lot of references. There's like 4 or 5 references to the same diagram. And so.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes.
How do you match the text in the PDF to the figure?
Yeah, that was the tricky part. So part of it was that PDFs lay things out, PDFs lay things out in different ways. Sometimes the caption is the element before the image, sometimes it's after, sometimes it's not formally associated, sometimes there's just an image and then it's captioned as figure 1.7, and then like a page later, there's another reference to figure 1.7. So I scraped all the text to be able to match them well.
And then the actual matching was like keyword based, LLM based?
No, I look at like what is the thing, what is it called? And so if there's an image, what is the text element that comes immediately before or after it that has the words figure or fig in it? Case insensitive.
And then you match figure 1.7 to the rest of the text.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. More questions? Maybe I'll. Thank you, student.